Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about saying what you mean and meaning what you say. Welcome once again to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. I am Kale Houser. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about meaning what you say and saying what you mean. This seems so basic. This seems so elementary, if you will, as far as a way to do things in your workplace, especially as the leader. It is important that you are clear, right? If you remember from previous episodes, actually episode number 1, and again, side note, I apologize for the horrible intro and outro of those episodes. It is fixed. Hopefully you like these intros and outros better as far as sound quality and things of that nature goes. Anyway, if you're not saying what you mean and meaning what you're saying, right, you're creating confusion, and confusion leads to what? Failure. There's no clarity there. A prime example I have of this, and this backing up a step, goes further into not being clear in your expectations, not having I don't even know how to say it any further than that. Just not being clear in your expectations, right? People are left guessing of what do you actually mean by what you just said. Or if you say something and you don't follow through with it on the other end, it means that you don't mean what you actually said, okay? You don't believe it. And it really comes down to being almost two-faced in a sense, right? Talking, the common expression, talking out of one side of your mouth while you're talking out the other side of your mouth, right? Talking out both sides of your mouth. And you never want to be that kind of person as a leader where you're delivering one message or one direction to this group of people or in this way, and then turning around and doing the opposite with another group, unless there's a very good reason for that, right? They could be on completely different tasks. But when it's a unification of message, you don't want to have the duality of that. You don't want to have two different messages that are conflicting with each other. As the leader, you want to be clear and concise in that. One of the examples I have of this is during one of my deployments with the MQ9. So we have it set up. We have a site lead who's over basically everybody, including maintenance and technicians and air crew and stuff like that. But they're more worried about overall operations, right? They don't get further down into the weeds. And then we had a lead pilot, and that person was specifically there to schedule air crew, handle the operational end to make sure we had people available to fly the missions, take off the airplane, land the airplane, and all those good things. So they handled just the air crew. And I had this lead pilot one time that came in, and he already had a reputation a little bit within the company. And honestly, he had a reputation on the higher level of the company, which I think was fairly good, not being a part of that echelon. Which is kind of how he got the lead pilot position. And then he had a reputation with the kind of the worker bees, which is what I was at the time. Even though I was qualified as a lead pilot, I wasn't the lead pilot in this instance. He was. And it wasn't the best reputation, I'll just be honest with that. He wasn't known as somebody that brought unity to the workforce, if you know what I mean as far as that's concerned. But I had never met him before. I had never worked with him before. This was our first deployment together. So, and I'm very much a benefit of the doubt kind of guy. If I haven't met you, and even if you have a reputation, sure, I might be a little more cautious, but I will full on give you the benefit of the doubt to, either prove that rumor or that reputation wrong or right, whatever the case may be. Same as it goes if, you come in and that guy's like, oh, he's the best commander ever, the best leader. You go into it with like high hopes, but certainly you want to form your own opinion. And that's where I was at with this lead pilot at the time. And it soon became fairly evident through his actions and the things that he said and the way that he went about doing things and leading us as air crew that his reputation was fairly well earned. And one instance that just so stands out to me is, depending on what shift you're on, we did 24-hour ops, all day long, 7 days a week. We worked 12-hour shifts for the entire deployment. But there was lots of downtime, to be honest, within those 12 hours. Whether it be because the shift that you're on, you landed the plane an hour into your shift and it didn't take off for many hours later, or various things, and just scheduling that there were times that you were either done early or you didn't even have to necessarily be there at the beginning and you could come in later to do your portion of the shift. And he was notorious, or and we had kind of a group area where we all hung out, had to, watch movies, or you could play games or get on your computer, read, whatever you had to do. And the lead pilot, they were responsible not only for the scheduling, but also the doing all the paperwork and the reports, how many hours did we fly? Were there any maintenance issues? All that kind of stuff, right? That you would expect of a lead supervisor, or somebody that's the point of contact between the upper management back at home headquarters and us as the on-the-ground type people doing the mission. And inevitably there was downtime. It's just the way it works with air crew, right? There were maintenance delays and things of that nature, weather delays, all kinds of different stuff. So there was just a lot of downtime for pretty much almost everyone at any given day. And he was notorious for going, and as people are just sitting around in this tent, and it got a little crowded, because if we were all there at the same time, it just got a little crowded, and I think he kind of liked his quiet space and not having the TV blaring with some random movie while he was trying to do reports and things like that, because his desk and stuff was right there in our main aircrew tent. And he would say, hey guys, if you're done, you're more than welcome to go back to your room, or or go to the gym, or whatever the case may be. Basically, you are free to go. You don't have to just hang out here. As long as someone was there to give restroom breaks and things of that nature, no big deal. Which we always made sure, because if you wanted a restroom break while you were flying, you needed to make sure you were available for other people to do it, and that was never an issue. But then I noticed, because more often than not, I didn't really have anywhere else to go. You're in a deployed environment. It's not like you can just head off downtown or anything like that, at least not at the time that I was there. We could in previous years. But there's nothing really anywhere to go. You go back to your room that's even smaller, just has a bed, and if you're lucky, a chair, and watch movies on your laptop, right? Or read, or whatever the case may be. And it usually was stupid hot outside, so it's not like you're going to go running at 1 PM in this deployed location, for a 110-degree run or anything of that nature. So I would more often than not just hang out, and I, worked and read or did something on my computer, whatever the case may be. But then I would hear him, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, in talking to one of his buddies that, that they had deployed together and they kind of had history. He'd be like, man, I can't believe everyone just leaves after they're done with their shift, or really before our shift is over, because we were broken up into 2 crews on 12-hour shifts, 6 to 6 I think is what it was, or something like that. Doesn't really matter. And he would essentially badmouth the people that literally 15 minutes earlier he had told them, hey, you guys don't have to stay around here, like being the benevolent leader, right? Like the benevolence, like, hey, you have my permission to go goof off if you want to, because your day is done. Everyone gets to leave early on Friday. And then turning around and bad-mouthing those people to his buddy. And which was weird by itself, but also doubly weird that here I am sitting there, and we have no history. We don't really know each other. I mean, he knows I'm part of the crew, and he, I would presume, knows a little bit about my background, as far as being a qualified lead pilot and stuff as well. But he would just make these comments with, I don't know if it was a complete lack of self-awareness or on purpose of trying to badmouth other pilots to make himself look good. I can only guess at what the reasons were. But the point of the whole story was, the takeaway of it was him obviously not saying what he meant by giving those people permission, air quotes, permission to leave the aircrew tent and go back to our living quarters or gym or wherever, and then also not meaning what he was saying. And I can't exactly pinpoint on which side of the conversation he wasn't meaning. Was he not meaning, like, was it one of those disingenuous offers of like, hey, you guys go ahead and leave early, but not really expecting anyone to do it? Or was it the complaint of, I can't believe everyone left early, but not really expecting that people would stay, right? So to this day, I'm not sure exactly what his reasoning was, or the purpose of either statement on either side of that action of people leaving early or staying, and I can only guess. But I will say that it created definite friction within us, right? Because we're out there all deployed together. We're air crew, and we've got several crews, but we're still a team and a cohesive unit. We kind of only have each other to rely on, okay? We don't have family. We don't have really anything else but each other. So if there's problems, you have to be able to go to somebody and say, hey man, I'm struggling with this, or can you help out with this? Or, we encourage each other. You work out more and you eat healthier, or at least try to, for most of us. And you kind of have each other. And when you have a leader like that is being so duplicitous, I think that's a word, in how he is telling people what they should or are allowed to do, it creates nothing but strife. Because invariably you'll have a camp of like, yeah, nobody should leave early. You're here for 12 hours. That's what you're getting paid for. So you will clock in at 6 a.m. and clock out at 6 p.m., right? Even though it's completely unnecessary in this type of scenario. And then you've got the other hand of, hey man, as long as the work is done, you're not needed and you're able to be reached back in your room, and you're like 5 or 10 minutes away, because our rooms were just a little bit of distance away from where our operations were. No big deal. Just make sure you're available. Have your phone on, or whatever the case may be. And I can certainly to lean towards that ilk. But I wanted you to really think about, in the comments that you make and the statements that you make with your teams, okay? So whether this is a military environment, a deployed environment, which is certainly kind of the austere scenario of this case, or you're just in your office. Maybe you've got a small office as the business owner in the back of your building, and you are telling certain employees they can do something, and then going and complaining about those employees to your other employees. Okay, it's that duplicity and that not saying what you mean and meaning what you say that is fundamentally creating that strife and that discord in your organization. So you really need to think about, one, what message are you trying to get across? What message are you wanting your employees to take away from whatever it is you're saying? Because they should be listening to you. You're the leader, you're the manager, you're the supervisor. It's kind of their duty to listen to what you have to say, because you're the one in charge and responsible for providing that direction, if that is the case. So you need to be clear on what you're actually saying, and make sure, I always end, I think of a perfect example is disciplining your children. When I'm disciplining the boys, my boys are right now 12 and 14, they're in that perfect teenage years, and they're starting to test boundaries a little bit, figuring out how lazy they can be in different scenarios or not, what they can get away with, and we go through this discipline process. But it's mainly instructional, because I understand that, they're figuring out what kind of young men they want to be and all that kind of stuff. But I'm very clear, and at the end of that, I always ask them, do you have any questions about what I have just told you? And are you clear on what the expectations are moving forward, or why that was wrong, or why what you did is right, or how we're going to do things differently, okay? So you really need to be looking at that as you, as the leader of your organization, to make sure people are on the same page, and that you are not the one causing it create that confusion by being somebody who does not say what they mean, or does not mean what they say. Okay, one and the same, two sides of the same coin. Hope that was helpful for you today. I really appreciate, again, you spending your little bit of time with me. Shoot me an email at kalehouserleadership.com. Should you have any suggestions, comments, or concerns, or topics, I would love to hear from you. Have a fantastic afternoon, no matter where you are at in the world. Bye.